Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Beis. Starting with Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph. 4 lines from the bottom. Abaye teaches us a tradition that he had of the morning service, the Seder of the morning service. The last thing we saw was the Shnei Gezirei Eitzim, the 2 logs that are put on the pyre of the outer Mizbeach. That precedes the cleaning out of the deshen from the inner Mizbeach. The Gemara says, why should that be? Both places says, Vaboiker, Baboiker. The Gemara answers because when it comes to the Shnei Gezirei Eitzim, it's a machshir. It is what allows ultimately the burning of the inner Mizbeach. In case you need the Eitzim, if not the Eitzim themselves, but other Eitzim from the pyre, you'll bring them ultimately to the inner Mizbeach if necessary. Says the Gemara, V'dishon Mizbeach ha'pnimi koidim lahatovas chamesh neiros. The cleaning out of the ashes of the inner Mizbeach, that's the next stage, and that's before, that takes precedence over the cleaning out the hatovas of the neiros, the 5 neiros of the menorah. My taima, what is the reason? Says the Gemara, Amar Baye Gemara Gamirna Svar lo yadana. I have a tradition, but I don't have the reason why this is so. Why is it that this comes before the Chamesh Hatovas Haneiros? Rava Amar ki Reish Lakish. Rava said like Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish said, Amar Reish Lakish, Ein ma'avrin ala mitzvahs. Because we have a concept, one should not bypass mitzvahs. And therefore, when it comes to the Mizbeach, which is in the Heichal, you are going to then come in contact, the Kohen will come in contact with the Mizbeach before coming in contact with the menorah. And therefore, the cleaning out of the ashes of the Mizbeach precedes the Hatovas HaNeiros. On Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Beis at the top. When the Kohen enters the Heichal, he will first come in contact with the Mizbeach, the golden Mizbeach, the Mizbeach HaKtoris. The Tanya, it says in the Brisa, Shulchan b'tzafoin mishoich min ha'koisel shtei amos u'mechzo. The Shulchan is in the northern part of the Heichal, and it is 2.5 amos from the northern wall of the Heichal. U'menorah bedorom mishucha min ha'koisel shtei amos u'mechzo. And opposite it is the menorah on the southern side of the Heichal, 2.5 amos from the southern wall of the Heichal. Mizbeach b'mutza v'oimin be'emtza u'meshoich klape chutz kima. The Mizbeach, referring again, the Mizbeach Hazov, that is in between, that's equal distance between the Shulchan and the menorah. However, it's a little bit to the east. Ask the Gemara, v'nukme lehadayu, why not place it exactly, not only equidistant, but also exactly in the middle between the menorah and the Shulchan? Answers the Gemara, Kivan deksiv, since it's written in the Pasuk, Ve'es ha-menorah noichach ha-Shulchan, that the menorah will be opposite the Shulchan. Bo'inon dechazu ahadodi, we require that they see each other, and therefore it can't be then a complete obstruction. And therefore, if the Mizbeach is exactly in the middle between them, then you won't be able to see one to the other. So it has to be a little bit to the east. Al Kapanim, we see from over here that indeed the Kohen will then come in contact with the Mizbeach before the menorah. Ask the Gemara, V'nukme, ask the Gemara. So from this, that Reish Lakish points out, because of the reason is Ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs, Rava learns another thing from Reish Lakish. Omar Rava shmamina mid Reish Lakish avur da'ara atotefta osir. To then have the tefillin shel yad before the tefillin shel rosh is prohibited. Now he can't refer to l'chara putting on the tefillin shel yad before the tefillin shel rosh, because that's already a beferish pasuk. The Gemara learns out ukshartam li'ois al yadecha ve'hoyu l'toitofos beineinecha. It has to be put on that order. Rather, Tosfos points out one of 2 things it's referring to. Either it means that when it puts the tefillin away in the bag, in the teek, he should put in the shel rosh in the inner part, and the shel yad in the outer part. That way, when he then comes in the morning to take out his tefillin, he will then come in contact with the shel yad first before the tefillin shel rosh. And therefore he won't be ma'avirin ala mitzvahs. Another possibility, Tosfos says, when we're mashmesh the tefillin, we should then touch the tefillin shel yad before touching the tefillin shel rosh. For example, in the pasuk of Poiseach es yadecha, the halacha says to then touch your tefillin shel yad and then tefillin shel rosh in that order. And therefore the Gemara speaks out. According to this, heichi ovid midara letoitefta, the shel yad before the shel rosh. V'hatovas chamesh neiros kodim lohe ledam hatomid. The hatovas of the 5 neiros of the menorah, that precedes the dam of the korban tamid. Dam refers to the shchitas of the korban tamid, including, of course, the zrika of the dam of the korban tamid. That will then be after the hatovas of the 5 neiros. V'dam hatomid kodim hatovas shtei neiros. And then you'll have afterwards the hatav of the 2 neiros. So in other words, the order that Abaye is saying is that we have the cleaning out of the mizbeach, then we have the inner mizbeach, then we have the hatavas chamesh neiros, and then the avodas hadam of the korban tamid, and then the hatav of the shtei neiros. My timer, what's the reason for Abaye? Since it says the words baboiker in regard to the 2 logs that are put on the outer mizbeach pyre, and we don't need those words baboiker for itself, then shadinu lahacha, then we will then put it over here. Chad shadi lahatavas chamesh neiros, delikadme ledam hatomid. One boiker will use for the chamesh neiros, that will precede then the avodas hadam of the korban tamid. V'chad shadi ledam hatomid dinakdame lehatavas shtei neiros, and one baboiker of the shtei gezira eitzim will use for the korban tamid that will precede the latter 2 neiros of the menorah. And he speaks out and explains how this works. Chad shadi lehatavas chamesh neiros, one baboiker will put in the together with the chamesh neiros, the likdami ledam hatamid. That will then precede the avodas hadam, because the hachat tlas v'hachat trei. When you have already 2 in regards to the halakas neiros, plus you have the additional boiker that's written in regards to the shnei gezira eitzim. Now we have 3, and that then precedes the tray. 1 in korban of the korban tamid, it says the word haboiker, and also then we'll use 1 boiker from the shnei gezira eitzim. So we have 3 that precede 2, and that's why the korban. So that's why the chamesh hatavas neiros precede the korban tamid. V'chad shadi ledam hatamid denekdemei lehatavas shtei neiros, and we'll use 1 boiker of the shnei gezira eitzim, which we said is extra, to then be used for the korban tamid. So now we have 2, because the korban tamid also is a boiker, plus this boiker from the shnei gezira eitzim, and then that will then precede the 2 of the neiros at the end. That's true, you have 2 against 2, because the 2 neiros at the end also has the words boiker, but here we see the tamid takes precedence because the tamid is mechaper. Since the korban tamid is a korban oila, and it's mechaper on a bittul, the mitzvahs asay, therefore it will precede the latter 2 neiros. So again, in summation, Abaye is saying that the order of events is that you clean out the ashes from the inner mizbeach, then you do the clean out and prepare the 5 neiros of the menorah, then you do the avodas dam of the korban tamid, and then the latter 2 neiros of the menorah. Rav Papa challenges Abaye's order, and he says, let's say that one of the 2 words of baboiker that are superfluous, seemingly, that are used in the shnei gezira eitzim can be used for the cleaning out of the inner mizbeach, the nikta beila dam atomid, and that will then precede the dam, the avodas hadam of the korban tamid. The hachat tlas v'hachat trei. Since it says baboiker in regards to the cleaning out of the mizbeach, so then we have those 2 baboiker plus the additional boiker that we're using from the shnei gezira eitzim, which is 3 altogether. That will precede the 2 of the korban tamid. V'chad shadia ledama tamid, the nikdoim lehatavas chamesh neiros, and then you'll have the additional boiker from the Shnei Gezira Eitzim to be used for the korban tamid, which will then precede the 5 neiros. So in other words, what Rab Papa is suggesting is that the order should be clean out the ashes from the inner mizbeach, and then do the korban tamid, and then clean out the neiros, both the 5 and the 2 together. The afagav, the hacha trei v'hacha trei mechaper odif. He concludes his argument that even though the korban tamid is 2, and the latter 2 of the the neiros, the hatavas neiros also has boiker twice. Still, we said before that the korban tamid takes precedence because it's mechaper. So again, Rav Papa is asking Abai, change your order. Make the hatava, make the cleaning out of the inner mizbeach precede the korban tamid. Then the korban tamid will precede the hatavas haneiros. Im Kain asked the Gemara, if that's so, then afsuki b'maya mafsekes lu. You're not going to have a hefsek between the 5 and the 2 neiros, because you're using the korban tamid to then precede it. Whereas Abai was saying you put the korban tamid in between. The Gemara says, that would be fine according to Reish Lakish, the Omar, who said, Lama mativin v'choizim metivin. Why do we go ahead and clean out and prepare the 5 neiros of the menorah and then the 2 in that order? Lahargish kol ha'azara kula shapir, to then elicit the emotions of the azara and when doing the avodah. So that would be still shapir, because we can say that the kohen who does this, he can make a separation. He can go and do the 5, then go out of the room and come back and do the 2. So that would be according to Reish Lakish. However, Ela Rabbi Yochanan, the Omar, he says the words Babakir teaches me that has to be then Shnei Bekarim. That means there has to be an avodah in between. Here there's no avodah. So therefore it comes out that Papa's suggestion is not going to be a valid suggestion. Abaye goes back to his order, and that would be again the cleaning out of the ashes of the inner mizbeach, then the hatava chamish neiros, then the dam of the korban tamid, and then the hatava of the latter 2 neiros. Now the Gemara comes back and asks that we used Baboiker of the Shnei Gezir Eitzim, saying it's superfluous. Ask the Gemara, is it so? Amarle Ravina Ravashi, Hi Baboiker de Eitzim Mimiyater. Who says that it's extra, that we can go and use it for drashos? Hami Boile Gufe, we need it for itself. We need it to be taught something for itself. The Kama Rachmana, the Torah says, the Niknemu Lema'arocha Shniya Shel Ketaras. The Torah says that you should precede the Ma'arocha Shniya of the Ketaras. That means you should make the Shnei Gezire Eitzim. It should be then done in the order of Ma'arocha Shniya Shel Ketaras before the Seder Shnei Gezire Eitzim. So therefore we need that. We might think that the Shnei Gezire Eitzim precedes the menorah. Not the menorah, sorry. The Ma'arocha Shniya Shel Ketaras. The Ma'arocha Shniya Shel Ketaras refers to the Ma'arocha, the pyre that is adjacent to the Mizbeach. It's a small pyre that is used to then take those coals and bring it into the inner Mizbeach for the Ketaras. So Gemara says, Omarle v'lav mi ukimna aleho v'lo al chaver. Do we not establish, the pasuk says aleho, that you place the Shnei Gezira Eitzim aleho on the outer pyre of the Mizbeach, of the outer Mizbeach. And it says the word aleho, to teach me aleho, on it, and not on chaverta, and not on the second pyre, the Ma'arocha Shniya Shel Ketaras. Michlal the Isa Chaverta. It follows that there is already a pyre. That means to say that we already know from here, from this pasuk Alel, that there was already going to be the Ma'arocha Shniya Shel Ketaras that would precede the Shnei Gezira Eitzim. Therefore, the words Baboker are superfluous. Now the Gemara asks, "My Shna the Ovid Hatavas Chamesh Neiros Bereisha, Na'avid Hatavas Shtei Neiros Bereisha." Why would we have it in this order? Why, when it comes to cleaning out and preparing the neiros of the menorah, we do 5 and then 2? Why not do 2 and then 5? It says the Gemara, Kiven da Aschil Behu Avid Ruba. Once we begin, then we do the roiv. and we do the most that we can. Ask the Gemara, if you do the most that we can, then do 6 and then 1. V'navid shis, ask the Gemara, Amar Kro, the pasuk says, Beheti voi es haneros yaktireno. Here it says the word plural, haneros, and the minimum plural is 2. And therefore, ve'ein neros bechusa mishtayim. So therefore it has to be that there's 5 and then 2. The most we can do is 5 and then leave the latter 2. The next part of the avodah is that the latter 2 neros of the menorah is prepared before the lighting of the kitaras. Again, this is the shita of Abba Shol. And what's the source? The Makra says, Beheti voy es haneros v'hodar yaktiren. It says in that order. They should prepare the neros, and then afterwards it says you can burn the kitaras.